What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of Grid Encore. I'm Ben Schneider, joined as always by Brandon Crossland. Brandon, how's it going tonight? Good to see you again.
Going all right, Ben, and back full again because it needs to be another Motor Monday. And welcome you back here to Grid Encore for another episode. Good to see you as well, Ben, and nice to see you're nice and cool there in the office.
Yes, I have the air conditioning going. So I have two small rooms in my apartment. One's my bedroom, one's the home office studio space where I do most of these shows. I only have one air conditioning. I'd rather have it in the bedroom than in the office, but I have an air conditioning here in the work office. So the good news is I'm comfortable and cool with this AC over here. Hopefully it's not too loud and not affecting the volume here on the show tonight. But the bad news is it's summertime, so the library closes at 8. I can technically stay. It's not the end of the world if I'm here past closing, but definitely going to try to keep it under an hour for you all tonight, which we usually try to do and usually end up failing to do because we get so lively in our discussion here on this show. But in the meantime, if you're watching us, please don't hesitate to chime in on the conversation tonight. And before we get into everything that we have to talk about, as always, I want to take a moment to thank our Patreon investors, Colin, Michelle, Mark, Robin, David, and Matthew. Thank you all so much for your continued support of what we do here at the Grid Network. And if you like what you see tonight and you want to consider joining them, you can visit the link in the description box below on this YouTube stream. Or if you'd rather make a one-time contribution to us instead, you can tip us through Super Chat or visit the Buy Me a Coffee link. Any amount helps us continue to grow our motorsports media outlet here at the Grid Network. And one correction from last week before we jump into the Xfinity Series recap. In my final thoughts, I talked about Robert Kubica winning the 24 Hours of Le Mans, and I only half remembered a stat that I had seen in passing. He was the second F1 Grand Prix winner in recent history, not the second driver. There have been plenty of others, as I eventually thought of off the top of my head. Nico Hülkenberg, Antonio Giovinazzi, Brendan Hartley, just to name a few that have won Le Mans. Everybody, I'm sure, watching was probably screaming at me. Fernando Alonso, who won it twice, who is going after the Triple Crown, supposedly, maybe not anymore now that he's back in Formula One, but for the life of me, could not come up with that name in the moment. Of course, he's won 32 Grand Prix races. Kubica only has the one from Canada, but that was the stat. That's the correction, and that's hopefully going to tie up that loose end from last week. Now we jump in to this week's show, and Brandon, I think we have to start with the Xfinity Series race. Connor Zilisch finally winning on an oval. What more can you say about the talent this young man possesses here? I think some people are already looking at the current situation at Hendrick. They've got their drivers tied down for a couple of years still. But is he perhaps the most talented and hyped prospect that we've seen since Joey Logano entered the Cup Series with Gibbs at 18 years old?
Yeah, and he already was before he won at Pocono, in my opinion, because of his expert talent on road courses and seeing him win in his – I have to go back in the history in my brain of winning his first start.
The Glen.
At Watkins Glen,
yeah.
Yes. And then just coming right out of the gate and winning in Xfinity and getting these wins at Circuit of the Americas and such. But, yeah, he has if Joey Logano was sliced bread, he's cut from that same loaf or maybe a similar one there in the grocery aisle. He's ready to go, and he's with these 2 wins now in the season, he's very impressive how quick he's able to adapt to the situation. And really, like some of the other drivers we talk about that are, road ringers, which they all kind of have to be nowadays if you want to be successful. But he had to get that oval off of his back to be, to say you're more well-rounded. And he did that this weekend. So he's got that feather in his cap now and is a full contender. And also having Dale Jr. as his crew chief, I guess, made for a good story too, which we'll get into a little bit later. But yeah, he's definitely something special, and also for me coming to see him coming from the sports car background is appealing as well. Being a part of the Rolex 24 win a couple of years ago, he's definitely he's cut from a very very strong cloth.
Yes, and of course we should say first Xfinity Series win on an oval or a triangle oval. I think Pocono counts as an oval. I saw people debating that this week, and they're still debating whether it has 3 turns, 5 turns, 6 turns, however many turns you want to give that track. It much certainly more resembles an oval than a road course. So
Right. Yeah.
good for Zilisch to check that box. But of course, he won plenty of times on ovals at the ARCA level, but to do it in Xfinity is another level altogether. So congratulations to him there. But Brandon, you mentioned it. We also have to talk about who was sitting on top of the pit box for him. It was his car owner, NASCAR Hall of Famer, two-time series champion Dale Earnhardt Jr., filling in for Marty Lindley, who was serving a one-race suspension after Zilich's car did not have enough lug nuts secured at Nashville. Now, Front Stretch asked Kyle Busch about this in the media bullpen this weekend. Take a listen to what the two-time Cup Series champion had to say about Dale Jr.'s debut as a crew chief.
It's all publicity, but spin it how you want it. He's just going to be a warm body sitting on top of the box. You know, they've got enough stuff from the shop and enough technology these days of being able to have the crew chief still involved. So, you know, I could say I could do the same thing, you know, with one of my truck teams, but the guys at the shop would be the ones handling it. But still great, you know, cool eyeballs and, you know, putting some attention on their team and stuff like that. I mean, JRM's one of the top 2-3 teams in the Xfinity Series, and so may the best man win.
Is that something you would ever do full time?
Crew chiefing?
Yeah.
No. I already crew chief enough with a 10-year-old driver, and it's enough of a headache.
All right. Well, you know, Dale and Kyle have a little bit of a history together. Of course, that clip made the rounds on X, formerly known as Twitter. Kyle issued a clarification from his account saying this has nothing to do with any animosity towards Dale Jr. I'm referencing how silly the suspensions for crew chiefs are these days with all the technology they have to stay in contact with their teams. I'd say the same thing if Jeff Gordon went on a Hendrick Motorsports box as a crew chief. Brandon, do Kyle's comments have any merit here? Do you think that this was mostly just a publicity stunt, or do you think perhaps there is some merit to what Dale Jr. accomplished as a crew chief on Saturday at Pocono?
Well, first of all, I want to thank Dalton there at Front Stretch for asking the fun questions like that, and also for Kyle Busch playing along there in the media bullpen. But yeah, that is you know, it is funny to look at it that way of, you know, maybe it is just you know, how good would this be if Dale Jr. got on the pit box as crew chief and Zilisch ended up winning the race, which he did. So it made for a great story on both fronts. And now Dale Earnhardt Jr. becomes a person in elite company where possibly one of the few who has won a race as a driver, as a team owner, and now as a crew chief. Whatever category that is, I'm sure Seth Eggert and company will be able to create a list for it, and we can keep track of who else can take that down. But you know, Kyle Busch might have some merit to what he was saying there at the beginning, but his main gripe with, like he said, is with how silly suspensions are, and you know, the archaic idea of thinking taking a crew chief away from the physical racetrack is going to keep them away from helping their team out at all. Like they have all the capability to do that from remotely. And we know these big budget teams have those data centers, those control centers, basically like NASA, where they are just, you know, watching mission control from afar and are able to help them in all those different ways as if they're right there on top of the box with them. But, you know, knowing Dale Earnhardt Jr., he's not going to do anything just for, I don't think he's doing anything for publicity nowadays. He does all these things because he really loves to do them. Broadcasting, driving again, and owning part of the Cars Tour. He does all these things because he loves it. And also he really wants to do a good job at all the things that he does. He doesn't just, you know, half butt do things, if you take my meaning. You know, he really is critical of himself. It's been evident just from his broadcasting career how critical he is of things that roles that he plays, and he doesn't want to be seen as, oh, it's just Dale Jr. doing something because he's Dale Jr. Like he realizes that, and he wants to do these things because he loves them, and also he wants to work hard at them. So I'm sure him being on the box was beneficial for Connor Zilisch, and also he probably took all of his past knowledge of how crew chiefs were to him and what advice or voice of reason that they were to him over the years. I'm sure he translated all of that into that one race, and probably I would say had a lot of fun doing it too, especially if you get a win.
Brandon, this has kind of been a theme, I think, for Dale Jr. ever since he retired from the Cup Series. And I remember every Daytona 500 post 2017, it was like he was doing something new, trying something new when the series came back to start the year. I think he gave the command one year. He drove the pace car. He waved the green flag. Like, he's always trying to stay involved in the sport somehow. And of course, all of those things are much simpler, I think, than calling a race from atop the pit box. So I think what Kyle's saying here is, of course, if whoever would have filled in for Marty Lindley, if it wasn't Dale Earnhardt Jr., we'd probably only be talking about Connor Zilisch right now on this show, right? Of course, the fact that Jr. did it does bring a little bit more attention to what's happening in the race and on the broadcast, I'm sure, and for their sponsors. And certainly Zilisch winning it and parking it in victory lane only increases that even more. But I think at the same time, I don't know how much, again, of course, Dale Jr. is not super experienced at this, if he has any experience at all, certainly not at this level, crew chiefing a car. I don't know how much expert experience or insight he could have provided, but I know crew chiefs have certainly screwed things up in the past. There would have been ample opportunity for him to get a call slightly wrong or take an advantage away from Zilisch, and clearly he did not do that. Zilisch was able to win this race, and all credit to them. So I think at the end of the day, this isn't hurting anybody. I'm sure, some people are going to look at this and say, everything's got to be about Dale all the time here. Once again, he's putting his name out there, trying to draw up attention here or whatever. But at the end of the day, it seems to have worked. And you can't say it took away from the performance on track either, because he literally cannot do any better than what Connor Zilisch did on Saturday, winning this Xfinity Series race. And so congratulations to both of them.
Yeah, I mean, it's one thing if he went out there and, just got to be a crew chief, play crew chief for a day, and they finished in the top 10. It just would have been, it would have been a little side piece of a story. But for him to go out and win, now we know it's not all of his brains behind the operation. We know we're not blind to that. We know Junior Motorsports and Hendrick behind that have a lot of resources to pull from live during a race. But still, to go out there and win it with your name on the crew chief list, and that's a big accomplishment any way you shake it. And it was pretty interesting to see the entry list say Ralph Dale Earnhardt, and that's kind of how it broke. Someone was like, "I'm sorry, what?" I had to take a double take to make sure I'm seeing this right.
Yeah, well, and I think it's important to remember as well, some of the best crew chiefs used to be drivers. Now, Paul Wolfe and Rodney Childers, for example, they didn't have the same level of success behind the wheel as Dale Earnhardt Jr. did in their Busch Series careers, and certainly what Jr. accomplished at the Cup Series level. But they come from that first career and then transitioning that into a crew chief career, and they've won Cup championships and been able to parlay that into a nice second career in the sport for them. Shane Huffman, we'll talk about ARCA a little bit later, but what he's doing over there with several young drivers, including Connor Zilisch coming through that Pinnacle team as well, where he won a lot of ARCA races.
I think Tim Feedawall all the time on
Tim
the spotters.
Yeah, and spotters too. Yeah, I mean, a lot of them, bring that valuable insight as former drivers here. So I'm sure for Dale Jr. again, it's very different. Once you get on the pit box and are actually doing it in the moment, I'm sure. But he may not bring any experience having done that, but he can. It's not like he knows nothing about the sport. He drove in the sport for over 2 decades. Is still doing one-offs here. I don't know if he might be winding down on those Xfinity Series one-offs here, but he's still driving in late models and, brings, a broadcaster's perspective these days as well. So, again, I don't think you can really complain about this when this is the end result here. Clearly, they knew what they were doing. And again, you could not have ended with a better possible result for Zilisch and that Junior Motorsports team this weekend. All right, so we'll leave the Xfinity Series there. I want to say hi to Kobe here in the chat. Good evening. Hope you guys are staying cool. Feels like temperature is going to be 110 degrees here tomorrow
I believe
in North Carolina. Yeah, it's going to be hot up here too. I just checked my weather app. It says right now the high is going to be 94, which is actually down a few degrees. I think they were saying 98 as of a couple days ago. So if we just get through tomorrow, I think it'll cool off here up in New England. But Brandon, I don't know what I imagine you're probably closer or more similar to what Kobe's experiencing.
Yeah, here in the volunteer state, we're a good 100 index about all week. So that's it's par for the course. It's late June, early July. We're getting into it.
Yeah, I can't help but chuckle when I hear, like the UK is going through a heat wave here. It's going to be
78.
78 degrees Fahrenheit. Yeah, and I know
felt that in a building the other day. Come on.
Yes, and I know their buildings are designed differently than ours to trap heat. They don't really have air conditioning over there. I understand that there's context behind that, but
yeah.
At the same time, I would kill for 78 degrees right now this time of year. Are you kidding me? So
that's someone saving on their energy bill here.
Yeah, there you go. All right, we move on now to the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series. I want to say congratulations to Layne Riggs, winning a race that perhaps once again, this has been a common theme this year as well. You could say probably should have gone to Corey Heim. Riggs won the first stage, but that was because others were short pitting. Heim won the second stage and looked set to take the win here, but ended up not even finishing inside the top 20 as he suffered a flat tire, and that really took him out of contention there. But Brandon, at the same time, we should talk about Layne Riggs a little bit here. We talked about him last year really not living up to the hype and the expectations that were surrounding him before his first full-time season. He misses the playoffs and then goes off and wins the first two races in the opening round. Now he's got that win here this season. Do you think he's maybe one of the drivers who, if it's not going to be Corey Heim this year, who, of course, like we've said, could easily have twice as many wins as he actually has now? He's been running away with so many of these and only been able to close the deal about half the time. Do you think Layne is maybe a name that, if it's Heim versus the field, he could be that one from the field that sneaks through and takes the championship fight to him?
Yeah, certainly. And it's surprising that this is his first win of the season, the way that they've been performing there at Front Row Motorsports with the Truck Series. It's been, Riggs, Heim, Smith, and a touch from Rajah Caruth at Nashville and Stuart Friesen at Michigan to spice things up. But yeah, we've been talking about, those 4 wins for Heim. It should be 8. And so that's really the season we've been seeing. And a big disruptor in that has been between Smith and Riggs. So Riggs definitely could be a mover and a shaker when we get into the playoff picture. I remember last year he was able to light up with some of the short tracks towards the end of the calendar, and so it wouldn't be surprising if he was able to do that again.
Yeah, I mean, it's been mostly Corey Heim all season, like we've been saying. Obviously, we've had a couple of other drivers. You mentioned Caruth and Friesen. We should give a little bit of love to the McAnally-Hilgeman duo of Daniel Hemrick and Tyler Ankrum. They're up in the top 10 in points right now. They each have wins they're set for their postseasons as well. But at the same time, you look at what Front Row is doing with Smith and Riggs there. I think they are certainly the next best team and next best opportunity for somebody to break through. Again, there's been a lot of talk about the playoff format this week. I know Gluck put that poll up, and it's showing, I think, that we're trending in the wrong direction in terms of popularity for the status quo. But that's a discussion, I think, for another day. We'll save that for when it comes time for the playoffs themselves here. But the reality of the situation is, we saw it 2 years ago. If you can just get to the championship 4, who knows what could happen when they throw the green flag at Phoenix and how everything might unfold. So if Corey Heim can go out and win every race from here on out, he's still going to have 3 others that he has to beat in the season finale at Phoenix, and we'll see if he can do just that, or if maybe somebody like Layne Riggs can sneak through and steal the title from him.
I think that's the plan for all of ThorSport, really, because what in the world is happening with Todd Majeski right now and Ben Rhodes? The 2 DNFs for Majeski, and I mean, of course, Matt Crafton going through what he's going through with his career. It's kind of been at a stall here in the past few years, but Ben Rhodes also struggling there. But especially with Majeski, he's got to have some sort of late season burst here if he expects to have anything going. But really expected him to be in the talks, in the picture, at least here by now.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think Crafton is probably in the twilight of his career as he is in his.
I didn't want to say the T word, Ben. I didn't want to say it, but that was on my mind.
Yeah, I mean, he is approaching 50. I mean, we talk about it all the time on this show. His consecutive start streak, it's a quarter of a century now that he's coming up on here. So he's been around for a very long time. He does have 3 top 10s this year, but I think it looks like a combination of both here. I think Crafton, you could certainly say probably not in his prime anymore, but when you look at the rest of the ThorSport teammates here. Ty Majeski in 8th, Jake Garcia in 9th. I mean, I would not have expected Garcia to be the second of the four Thor Sport trucks. Try saying that 3 times fast in the standings right now. And Ben Rhodes, also a multi-time champion of this series, only 13th in points and still looking for his first win of the year as well. So, maybe there's something going on at Thorsport right now that's holding them back a little bit, but we'll see if they can right the ship before the playoffs begin here, because as of right now, 2 of their trucks would certainly be out. I guess Majeski and Garcia could probably still get in on points, but I'm sure they would much rather have victory celebration to be able to make sure their spots are set and confirmed there. So still a few opportunities to do that. 4 races left before that cutoff, but you're right. I mean, it has been an uncharacteristically down year so far for the multi-time champions and team that's been around in this series for a very long time. So we'll see if they can right that ship. All right. Actually, Grant, I see you put something here in our private chat.
It's for later, for the,
okay.
Like the final thoughts. Yeah,
I got you. All right, we will save that for later then. In the meantime, we'll move on to our open segment. 5 races down for Amazon Prime, and we're approaching the 5-race stretch now for TNT, halfway through this summer stretch of our new broadcasters here. So, Brandon, I just want to get some general thoughts. We talked about this a little bit on wrap up yesterday. I was filling in for Joe on that show Sunday night. What were your thoughts on this 5-race deal, streaming exclusive for Prime Video? How excited are you for the return of TNT? The booth is going to be the same, so there is some continuity there. And are you excited at all for this in-season challenge, which isn't even going to include one of the winners from the last 3 races because SVG didn't make the top 32 in points? But I digress. What are your thoughts?
Well, let's hold off on the in-season challenge part. The Prime coverage, widely praised, and for good reason. I think the biggest thing for me, a lot of others will focus on just how well they are able to orchestrate each race as an event and not just a piece into who's going to make the playoffs next, or not. Wow, wacky stuff. Look at this. Whoa, look at this. It's, making each race as an event, which I like too. But really the biggest thing that's sticking out with me, leaving the Prime part of this year's coverage, is just how clear and crystal clear the picture was. And the sound too. I mean, the sound quality, picture quality, I didn't realize that we could have a broadcast look so clean. Of course, we're used to it with Formula One. And that goes over ESPN here in the States. So, I don't see why we can't have that same level of quality with NBC Universal or with Fox. Because, I've seen this with IndyCar too. I'm not sure what goes into putting the feed out from the truck to, all the systems it has to go through to get to our TV screen or phone from NBC. But that quality is always always been missing something to me, especially when you see like the ticker next to the, like sometimes it's a little more pixely than you think it should be. Even with like the best screen, it's still like you can't get the best picture quality out for some reason. But Prime, I guess that's one of the advantages to being a direct to streaming service, among other things. The other thing is they get to have the really long pre-race and post-race activity, which it's been a gaping hole since NASCAR Race Hub left us with FS1, which, granted wasn't always the best content either. Sometimes I know from some that it kind of fell from grace after a few years, or after many years into it. But it was kind of a fossil itself from the days of Speed and having the Speed channel and having that 24/7 sort of activity going on. And I think Wind Tunnel is looked at as probably the pinnacle of that's when Speed was on top of the world, and also just like Trackside Live and having things like that, which John Roberts and Kenny Wallace are still doing that. It's alive and well, man. It just needs to be put on TV, which I hope that can make its way back to TV somehow, whether it's with John Roberts and Kenny Wallace or not. But I hope someone can pick that up, because it's gaining a lot of traction, at least on for the fan zone, fan experience part of things. and they're able to live stream that on YouTube. I'm going all over the place here, but back to the Prime coverage. Having all that, the intro, outro coverage is amazing. Picture sound quality is amazing. The booth is firing on all cylinders. Are there mistakes? Sure, there's going to be mistakes in every broadcast. Get used to it. Like that's what's going to happen. But I think it's been wonderful. And then now returning to TNT, I don't think they're going to be what we think it's going to be. I think we're thinking 2012 TNT or 2011 TNT Summer Series, AC/DC intro, and all this stuff. I imagine it's going to be a little more revamped than that, maybe a little tamer than what we're anticipating in our mind's eye. And seeing some things from Matthew Owens about a possible future of TNT. I don't know how much they're willing to, go all in with their presentation and stuff. But we'll see what it looks like. I have a feeling it might be more like seeing USA, NASCAR in USA or NASCAR on True TV, where it's, which we're about to see with practice and qualifying. But I think it's going to be a little more like, yes, it's on this, but we don't really have too much of our own identity. It's basically a Amazon Junior, or whatever they want to do. But I'm glad they're retaining some of the booth from Amazon, I think, or from Prime. That's going to be important because Junior, for one, was saying like he doesn't feel like he's got enough time to, we're just getting going, and we're just going to disband it. So I'm glad they're retaining a lot of that talent, and also Alan Cavana being a part of the TNT broadcast. He fell off there on the Fox coverage after some moves were made, and has been doing really well behind the scenes and with PRN. But really glad to see him get back in front of a camera where his talent level belongs. And so now this in-season challenge. I'm not into the March Madness stuff, really. I mean, I like watching the excitement of it. I'm not into I used to be into making picks, just for fun, but, never, I think I made like $12 one time for just like getting enough right, maybe in like 2020 off like an iRacing event. That app has been deleted since then. I forgot what that was, but it was something they had going on. But anyway, I'm not into anything like that. And the drivers did not seem to be caring about the in-season challenge at all. So it seems like something that's purely for the fans' enjoyment, which is okay. Maybe the drivers will get into it a little bit if, they see that, they have a chance to win money, of course, but I mean, and the fans do too. But again, it's kind of like the All-Star race purse where it's like, yeah, is that really a lot for them?
$1 million
nowadays?
doesn't go as far as it used to. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. 1 million. Yeah. 1 million. It's not really the same as it was. And it's just more of a publicity thing. And also for TNT to have something for their leg of the season, the month of July, basically going all the way to the Brickyard 400, it gives them something to keep track of. But just from my experience of this one weekend at Nashville, it was like the media was really invested in asking the drivers about it, and they were just like, yeah, I don't care. That's basically what I got then. Maybe they're going to care a little bit more about it now that we're finally here, but it might have been that kind of thing where like they only see 1 week ahead, like they're still thinking about Mexico and no thought about the in-season challenge. But as a game show fan, I imagine you might be a little more hyped for an in-season challenge.
I feel like I want to be. Maybe I should be. It does feel like it's got kind of that game show vibe to it. Like, we're filling out a bracket here. We're going to have these head-to-head challenges, kind of a race within a race, so to speak. But the race fan in me just sees it kind of as another gimmick. But I've told Matthew Owens this as well. It's simply not the straw that breaks the camel's back for me. I don't know, but I disagree with anything that he said. I'm just not as upset about it because I'm at the point where we have so many gimmicks, in my opinion, anyway, between playoffs and stage racing and overtime and all sorts of other quirks that we've introduced in the last 21, 22 years. Have your goofy little in-season tournament at this point. I don't really care. It'll be something for TNT and those guys to look at, I guess, and hype up. And it'll be cool for whoever wins it, I guess, although Like I said, $1 million doesn't go as far as it used to when that prize was introduced. Certainly going back to the Winston Million and the Noble 5 or whatever, but even the All-Star race, I think even the mid-2000s, you look at how much inflation has jumped up since then, and that's one thing. But then I turn around and say, well, if this was a $5 million challenge or a $10 million challenge, would it change how
now we're talking
view about that? And I think
Yeah.
maybe it would a little bit, but I don't know. It's still when you have a bracket style competition and one of your tracks is Atlanta, for crying out loud. I mean, just in this day and age, the Atlanta Motor Speedway that we have now, I don't know. It's and again, the fact that SVG was one of the 3 winners, and imagine if he had snuck into the top 32 going into that race, and now was a top 3 seed because he won. Again, no disrespect to SVG, but that's not really indicative of where he should probably be seated for something like this based on the season that he's had so far, right? Obviously he was great in Mexico, but you look at these tracks coming up here, I don't know. It's just, again, I feel like I can't really badmouth it too much because I don't have too many negative thoughts towards it, but it's probably something that it's gonna be in the back of my mind at best as we go into these races here. I'm much more interested to see what the TNT product is going to look like. I know you called it Amazon. I think Amazon Prime, Turner, TNT, it's all interchangeable. Everybody knows what you mean there.
I think you're going to see the same graphics, but just a different logo, kind of like USA, the relationship with USA and NBC. Yeah. I would love to be wrong.
I noticed during the post-race show, I feel like the bottom line that they were using seemed like it was NBC's graphics there. It seemed like it was, if not a direct copy, it was very close, at least.
Yeah, very close.
Inspiration from that, and we've seen that obviously with Prime's coverage of the qualifying sessions from when Fox had that part of the schedule. So it seemed like they were taking some of those for their own benefit there. I'm sure there's always some cooperation between the broadcasting partners in that sense. But just one more, drawing it back to Dale Jr. real quick, because I know I've been, after Matthew, probably his second harshest critic of him in the booth during his time at NBC, discounting all the people in the Facebook comments, because that's where all the experts reside there. Junior certainly not universally beloved in the booth, but I think majority had mostly positive things to say about him. I was a little more critical of his NBC tenure, but I think he has noticeably improved, and I don't know if that's just down to the booth being less crowded. I don't know if he just has better chemistry with Adam Alexander. I know he has great chemistry with Steve Letard. Obviously, they were crew chief driver pairing for many, many years at Hendricks, so there's never been an issue there. But I have to say, I think I like Junior a little bit more in this 5-race stretch, and I'm sure that will continue at TNT. And I have to say, even Adam Alexander, I never hated Adam Alexander in the booth, but he hasn't particularly been one of my top 2 or 3 favorites either. But I think he really stepped up his game as well, and he's done the same in the CW booth, also in the Xfinity side of things. So I think the booth has been a very solid part of these Prime broadcasts as well. Still think I'd prefer Junior in the studio role. I think that's where he shines the most. But I think, again, like Mike Joyce said on the download a couple of years ago, you'd have to dynamite him out of the booth there, and even then you probably wouldn't be able to totally get rid of him. I completely understand why the networks want to have him in the most visible place possible, but to his credit, I think he's stepped up his game as well. And again, looking forward to that part of the continuity, at least when TNT takes over. But it will be interesting to see the product that they put on display for us over these next 5 weeks as well.
I think looking back 30 years from now, Ben will be really happy that Junior was where he was for this moment in time in the booth,
sure,
as much as he can. And also your comments on AA, like, yeah, his best work came the moment he got on the CW, and then it was immediately topped whenever he got on Prime starting up at Charlotte. It's just been, I've always respected Adam Alexander, just was never one of my, I guess not really one of my favorites until, I don't know, just like a different direction was given. I really don't know if it's like a difference between working with Fox and these others or what.
I mean,
it's like his whole demeanor, personality, motive changed.
Yeah, I would not. I think that plays no small role sometimes in what happens behind the scenes. And again, people are going to have their opinions and their comments on the Fox coverage. We know that for sure. I did see. I was only kind of half paying attention. I saw there was briefly a clip with some Muppets. I don't know if Amazon was teasing something during the post-race show, but I did see somebody tweeted, if this was another network, I know we'd be trashing them and going crazy here. And again, I think a lot of that comes down to, overall presentation. Like, I'm sure if Fox was doing a puppet skit, then we'd just say, oh, that's just Fox being Fox. When that's all the culture that their coverage has brought to us over the last decade plus or so, we've come to expect that. And I think we get a little more annoyed by that. Whereas if Prime just wants to have some fun here or there and not take themselves too seriously while also maintaining a serious nature on the broadcast overall, and making sure that they are presenting the sport in a serious manner most of the time, then I think that's probably why you get different reactions in those different circumstances.
There's a delicate balance, and Fox definitely has become sometimes a caricature of its former self.
That's the perfect word for it. Yep.
Yeah, and it's painful to watch sometimes, but they still, like, granted, they still do shine. They have moments when they still do shine, in my opinion, but unfortunately, they're just not as often as they ought to be with the tenure that they have and the contract that they have.
Yeah, exactly. And I think Mike Joy is a living legend. I will never badmouth him too much. I do think he's no longer in his prime either. He's certainly closer to the end of his career than the beginning. But it is great that he is still involved in the sport. And I do think, Harvick provides some great analysis as well. I just think that booth doesn't have as much chemistry as of yet, even though we're 2 years in, as perhaps this Prime booth has after just 5 races here. And again, I think a lot of that comes down to behind the scenes production and the directions that those guys are being led in. But again, we'll see. Maybe this will get the other networks to raise their bar a little bit, and rising tide lifts all boats in that sense. We'll see.
That's all I hoped for whenever we got this new contract deal. Exactly. Is okay. I hope the folks that are retaining their contracts are going to be like wide-eyed and stepping it up moving forward.
Yeah. And I think it's no coincidence that you see even more complaints about the Truck Series coverage, because there is no competition for Fox on that side of things. And that does concern me a little bit, with the Xfinity broadcasts with the CW. Will they start, becoming a little more relaxed as they get into their contract a little bit? Certainly, I don't think the booth is going to feel that way. But again, we've seen some issues behind the scenes, with local affiliates as well. So hopefully those get ironed out and we don't lose that on the Xfinity side as well there.
The best thing that could happen for Fox and NBC in these coming years is the potential of their race count being threatened by Prime and TNT for lack of performance. We're going for sure. Or lack of ratings. Yeah.
All right. We move on here to a couple more races to recap. Congratulations to Kyle Collet on winning the INDY NXT race at Road America. Unlike what we've seen in the IndyCar series, because Alex Palou won once again, we still only have 2 winners through the first 9 races there. We now have a new winner this season in INDY NXT, although the 2 championship protagonists, Dennis Hauger and Lockheed Hughes, not far behind. They round off the podium in 2nd and 3rd, respectively. And I'll give a shining moment here, actually, a little bit early. 19 cars started this race. All 19 finished the race on the lead lap. I know Road America is a long track. There were only 20 laps in this race, but that is still an impressive feat nonetheless. And as the staff writer for the ARCA series on Brock Beard's LastCar.info, I can tell you that I don't think I ever have or ever will be covering an ARCA race where the last place finisher is still on the lead lap. It is certainly something that you will never see in the stock car racing world, at least not any time in the near future, I don't think. Certainly in ARCA, as long as starting parks are still a thing, we'll have a garage filling up with retirees from these races here, but not so in INDY NXT. And I think that speaks highly to every driver in this field here. So well done to all of them, all 19 of them running every lap this weekend in the INDY NXT series at Road America. And speaking of ARCA, here are your ARCA Menard series results from Elko. Again, keeping with the theme of the same 2 dominant cars, all-time shocker of a 1-2 right here, but congratulations nonetheless to Max Reaves. This is his first national main ARCA Menard Series win. Of course, he's won a few ARCA East races this year, but he had to hold off Brendan Queen to do it. Brendan Queen, of course, driving that Pinnacle car by number 28. So there in your 1-2 once again, and a trio of Venturini cars rounding up the top 5 with Lawless Allen, Ty Fredrickson, and Isabella Robusto. Want to give a shout out as well to Jason Kitzmiller. Strong run for him in 6th place. And LeVar Scott as well. Felt kind of badly for him because it looked for a while on that last restart like he might be on pace to take his first ARCA victory. Unfortunately, his car faded towards the end. He had taken the lead, but he got passed by both Reaves and Queen, and then faded much further back from there. So I would just chalk that up to his car going away from him. I don't think he all of a sudden ran out of talent there in the closing laps and dropped like a rock or anything. I think his adjustments just kind of went away there, and that's unfortunate for him. But I think it shows that he has the pace to hang with those two teams should the right opportunity and right setup come his way. So we'll see if he can break through and get that ARCA win before the season is over. And great to see Taylor Reimer making her debut for this season as well in that number 70 car. Much more on that, as well as Cadence Davenport and Becca Monopoly. And where is she? There's Quinn Davis there in 11th as well. Quite a few female drivers in this race. We'll catch you all up on that on the next episode of Women in Motorsports coming your way soon as well. And that's your ARCA rundown. That's our show for tonight, with the exception of the one shining moment. So, Brandon, what was the one thing that stood out to you from this past weekend in the world of motorsports?
Well, since I don't get to talk about Cup as often, I got to go to that leaderboard and just, I think 2 weeks in a row, shouting out Legacy Motor Club for another impressive result at Pocono this time, with John Hunter Nemechek in 6th, Eric Jones 13th. And also, what about RFK, Ryan Preece and Brad Keselowski back-to-back there, 8th and 9th, respectively. And Ryan Preece, and that is what I said. Ryan Preece and Brad Keselowski, 8th and 9th. And let's see, going back, where is Chris Buescher ahead of them? Of course, 4th. So, yeah, a decent outing for RFK and Legacy Motor Club, two organizations that need improvement and seem to be finding it.
All right. Well, I know we just had a whole open segment about it, but I'm going to continue to sing praises to Prime Video and their coverage over the last 5 weeks. I think it's a shame that the run was so short here, but I think they set the bar very high for TNT and NBC for the rest of the season to match what they were able to provide us. So again, I know some people were upset that they couldn't hook up their antenna and find the Cup Series race. But I think there are trade-offs and benefits, pros and cons to everything in this sport. I think the youth viewership, the 1849 demo, which as a game show fan, I can tell you, being familiar with TV and ratings, that's the big number that all the advertisers care about here. And I think that's why you see a lot more people flocking to Formula One over NASCAR. NASCAR still beats F1 in the total viewership. It's not particularly close, but the same can be said for the 1849 demo for F1 there. And I think that's much more indicative of the future and what these advertisers want to be reaching. So I think we did lose some of that on the older generations side of things in terms of the prime viewership, but picked some up, I think, among that important advertising demographics. So from a business standpoint, I think it certainly was a win in that regard. And hopefully, I think a lot of people maybe don't even realize that they have Prime or have access to these races, or had access to a 30-day free trial and could have watched this entire stretch here. Again, I can't help but laugh at the video the Iceberg put out, all the comments saying how terrible this was. One person even called it communist, I think, that NASCAR was on Prime, when in reality, I think it was the most capitalist business deal that you could have had here for this sport. So, we'll hopefully those fans can find a solution.
Communist.
If not, they'll just
our video's flagged now. It's flagged. It's gone.
I guess. They'll certainly have their echo chamber. They can keep shouting into the void there, and we can just have a good laugh at their expense. But in all seriousness, I think a great start to this business relationship over the next 7 years for this TV contract that we're in right now. So shout out to everybody on the Prime coverage, even the studio as well. We'll give them a shout out. Daniel Trotta, Carl Edwards, Corey LaJoy, everybody that's a part of that team all did a great job, I think. And we'll see again if TNT can match that, and NBC later on this season as well. So that's going to do it for us here tonight. Thank you all for tuning in. We're going to get you out here. Look at that, 7:47 here on the East Coast, so well before 8 o'clock. Thank you all for sticking with us tonight. And be sure to follow the Grid Network on all social media platforms, X/Twitter, Threads, or Blue Sky, whatever microblogging platform you're using these days. You can also find us on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Twitch, LinkedIn. Most importantly, subscribe to us right here on the YouTube channel and visit our website at gridnetworktv.com. If you really liked what you saw tonight, you can take a few minutes after the show to consider joining in our Patreon. Join Colin, Michelle, Mark, Robin, David, and Matthew in investing in the Grid Network to help keep us on the air throughout 2025 and beyond, and help us continue to expand our coverage. Or if you'd rather make a one-time contribution to us instead, you can visit the Buy Me a Coffee link, also in the description box below. Or you can tip us through YouTube Super Chat, or if you're watching after the fact or watching one of our show highlights on our clips section of the YouTube channel, you can tip us through Super Thanks as well. Now, taking a look at our upcoming schedule, on Wednesday, don't miss Grid Tonight with Kobe Lambeth, Josh Birch, and Matt White. Stay tuned for our new NASCAR pre-race show format continuing on later this week as well. Grid Live will be back. As always, Women in Motorsports will hopefully be back sooner rather than later. I know we've got a little ways to go before the next F1 Academy race weekend, but certainly stay tuned for that. We'll put that out there when the time comes to be able to tape that again. And then we will see you once again on a 167.25 hour break right here on the Grid Encore show. Brandon, any final thoughts before we sign off for the evening?
Well, welcome back TNT this weekend at Echo Park Speedway, the artist formerly known as Atlanta Motor Speedway. Maybe we'll figure it out this weekend. And also New England gets a visit with the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series, and Lime Rock Park, which I think is a wonderful addition to the schedule and great opportunity for that facility, historic facility too. And a Race-Face Digital editor-in-chief, Jacob Seelman, able to break a story for us today. Was the one to break it actually a couple of hours ago. Per the released NASCAR entry list, 3-time IMSA Sports Car Champion Jordan Taylor will drive the Spire Motorsport number 7 Saturday at Lime Rock Park. This will be Taylor's NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series debut and his 4th career National Series appearance overall. The Rodney Sandstorm, as he calls himself when he gets in these big-bodied stock cars, he's back at the Liuna 150.
All right. Thank you, Brandon. I'm going to bounce off of that. I know when the news dropped last year, I tweeted that Kylian Mbappe quote, "I will be there no matter what." Lime Rock Park is only about 3 hours away from me. Unfortunately, I lied. I think I lied. I'm like 99% sure I'm not going to be able to make the trip this weekend, but that is partially because I am 99% sure I will be back at Sonoma this year with Brock Beard and LastCar.info. So still waiting on official confirmation for that with credentials and all sorts of that nature here and plane tickets and everything, but tentatively scheduled to have that fall into place here for the 4th year in a row. Unfortunate, but the timing doesn't work out with doing Portland the week before and kind of doing the 2-for-1 on the West Coast this year. But it's still going to be busy for me nonetheless, because after the Sonoma weekend, I'm going to fly back to the East Coast. We'll do the show probably on Tuesday again, like we have the last few years. And then I'm going to fly back out to the West Coast to Oregon for my mom's side of the family, having a family reunion from Friday to Monday, the 18th through the 21st. So we'll probably be another Tuesday edition of the show that week as well, or maybe somebody will fill in for me on Monday. We'll keep you all updated on the schedule when that time comes in about a month. But stay tuned for some potential changes to that schedule in the coming weeks as we work around my travel schedule in the month of July.
Love to hear travel schedule. Glad that's continuing with Brock as well, and excited for you to be able to witness TNT at Sonoma. That's got to be a special thing.
Yeah, I'm very much looking forward to it again, and want to thank Ethan Smith, who has hosted me each of the last several years. He's of course based in North Carolina right now. He's doing some great work, finding some bigger and better roles for him in this sport. So he's kind of moved towards the hub, but his parents still have the place in California, and we're going to be hanging out there again during the Sonoma race weekend. So we're really looking forward to that. And again, want to thank everybody for continuing to support my work, not just here, but over at Brock's side as well. It is very much appreciated. And it's what has enabled me to go each of the last 4 years here. So it's unfortunate Portland's not going to work out for me this year. The IndyCar Series schedule is, conflicting with some other plans that I'd already made. And by the time NASCAR returns, semester started back up here, and I'll be helping out with some cross-country commitments on that side of things as well. But looking forward to being able to still do Sonoma again, even though to the point that Kobe brought up in our chat at the start of the show, it's probably going to be a little bit hotter having it a month later than it's usually been. So we'll make sure we stay hydrated and get plenty of sunscreen as well, but looking forward to it still nonetheless. For Brandon Crossland, I'm Ben Schneider. Thank you all so much for watching yet another episode. We'll see you next time right here on the Grid Network.
Thank you.